100 brave Americans sailing for to go, singing, blow your winds in the morning and blow your winds, hi-ho. All the way you're running gear and blow, boys, blow.
Hello, History Nuts. My name is Sharon, and I'm an educator at the Connecticut Historical Society. Today, I'd like to take you back in time, to a time when our country was just starting out, when we were expanding westward on land, and our seamen were traveling around the world in search of the King of the Deep. It's the 1800s, and New England is the center of the American whaling industry. Whales supply two important resources, whale oil and baleen. Whale oil is used for lighting the way in the form of lamp fuel and for making candles. It is used for everyday products like shoe polish and soap. Baleen, found in the whale's mouth, is a tough, flexible substance used to make women's corsets, umbrella frames, parasol ribs, and carriage springs. So how do you harvest whale oil and baleen, you ask? There's only one way: to hunt whales at sea. It's a bloody and dangerous business. Did you know that New London, Connecticut was the third largest whaling port during the golden age of Yankee whaling? From 1803 to 1879, over 2,500 voyages sailed from New London. When a whaling vessel would leave port, it would be made up of approximately a 21-man crew. The crew would be made up of experienced sailors and green hands. A green hand is a sailor who has not sailed before. Some of the crew are as young as 13 years of age, all ready to set sail for a voyage that would last usually 3 to 4 years. So what was it like to live aboard a whaling vessel? Can you imagine living with rats, cockroaches, bedbugs, and fleas? These were all facts of life aboard a whale ship. The men endured these creatures in their food, in their bunks, and on their bodies. The living quarters for the crew were filled with a mixture of foul air, smoke, sea chests, greasy pans, and tainted meat, as well as seasick green hands. What about meals aboard a whaling vessel? What did the men eat? Although the crew's rations ranged from unpleasant to revolting, hard work gave them good appetites, even for greasy pork, hard biscuits, and cockroach-laden molasses. Ugh. Other fare the sailors would eat included salt horse. That's heavily salted beef, pork, or horse. A chance to eat something fresh was a treat. At ports of call, fresh water, fruits, and vegetables were taken aboard. Cooks became used to preparing sea turtles, dolphins, seabirds, and fish. Once, it was told, a ship cruising off the African coast harpooned and ate a hippopotamus. How about that for your breakfast, lunch, or dinner? Being out at sea for 3 to 4 years, there was plenty of time when the sailors were not working. So how'd they keep themselves busy? In the late afternoon and early evenings, most hands came on deck to socialize. They puffed on pipes, talked, read, or even mended their clothes. They often broke into high-spirited singing and dancing. A favorite way the sailors would spend their spare time was carving scrimshaw. What's scrimshaw, you ask? Scrimshaw is an art form developed by American whalemen. They used the teeth or baleen from whales to carve intricate designs of whaling scenes. Using a knife or sail needle, they'd carve the surface, then fill in the carvings with lamp black made from soot. Many times, practical items were carved from teeth as well, such as napkin rings, canes, knitting needles, and tools of all sorts for shipboard use. But once the very desired call was heard, blow! The men jumped into action. From high above the deck, the lookout would keep an eye on the horizon for sprays of air from a whale's blowhole. Once a whale is spotted, the vessel steers towards it. Then the captain, mates, and crew thunder across the deck to launch the whaleboats. Usually, 3 whaleboats would be lowered over the side of the vessel. Then the sailors would row toward the whale. Whales have very good hearing, so it was important to approach quietly. The splash of an oar could galley the beast and make it sound and swim further away from the boats. As the whaleboat glided closer, the harpooner picked up his weapon. The harpoon was used to attach the whale to the whaleboat rather than to kill it. The harpooner stood at the bow, weapon in hand. "Give it to 'em!" the boat header shouted. When the boat was within a few feet of their prey, the harpooner plunged the harpoon into the whale's back. At this moment, the crew backed the whaleboat away as the whale thrashed in pain. The whale usually dove down, taking the harpoon with it and the line. When the whale came back up to breathe, it often swam on the surface. Sometimes the whale would swim as fast as 25 miles per hour. The whaleboat, attached to the whale by the harpoon and line, bounced along, showering the men with spray. This is known to whalers as a Nantucket sleigh ride. The danger was very real that the crew might be carried so far from the ship that it could not find it again. When the whale tired, it was time for the kill. The boat header and harpooner changed places. The boat header carried a lance forward and plunged into the whale's heart or lungs. The whale would spout blood with its last dying breath. Once this happened, the sailors would shout, "Chimneys afire!" indicating the life of the whale was over. By the end of the hunt, the whalemen could be miles from the whale ship, and the only way back is to row, whale in tow. Once the whalers returned to the ship, the whale was brought alongside, where the captain and mates stripped the blubber from the whale's body. The blubber would be boiled, turned into oil, and stored in barrels. The barrels then would be placed in the ship's hold. When the hold was full, the whaling voyage was over, and the vessel returned to its home port. So what happened to the whaling industry, you might ask? Like many, the introduction of new technologies caused old ones to fail. In 1859, oil was discovered in the ground of Pennsylvania. This, along with the depleting whale population, brought whaling in America to an end. In 1927, from the port of New Bedford, Mass., the John R. Mantra was the last American whaler to set sail. Here in Connecticut, our time with whaling ended about 20 years earlier. On September 24, 1908, the whaling schooner Margaret sailed out of New London, Connecticut. Unknown to the crew at the time, they were embarking on the last commercial whaling voyage in Connecticut history. The Margaret's return to port 7 months later, in April 1909, marked the end of 124 years of commercial whaling in Connecticut. Today, we honor the Connecticut whaling industry by naming the sperm whale our state animal and by erecting whale-related statues across the state, as well as creating many exhibits in our Connecticut museums, where you can learn all about this fascinating time in Connecticut history. Thank you for joining me today.
Brave Americans, whaling for to go, singing, blow your winds in the morning and blow your winds, hi-ho. All the way you're running gear and blow, boys, blow.